Welcome everyone to the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Directors meeting. It's April 8th at 4 p.m. and we're at the Carson City Community Center at the Sierra Room. Can I get a call to order, Linda?
Trish Trenoweth.
Present.
Mike Riggs.
Present.
Mike Jones.
Present.
Mike Santos.
Present.
Stacy Giomi. I'm here. We have a quorum.
Okay. If I could ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. At this time, I invite any public comment, anyone that would like to speak, comment or discuss any topic that is relevant to this committee. Now's your time. Seeing no public comment, we'll move to approval of the minutes for the March 11th meeting. As if everyone's had a chance to look them over, I don't see any changes or anything that needs to be made, but if not, we'll get a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Agenda, item 6, adoption of the agenda. I don't see any reason, again, to move anything around, and we'll take it as it is published. Item 7, discussion and possible action regarding approval of contract 1920-002 with Computer Artistry for graphic design for a total not to exceed amount of $30,000. David?
Excuse me, I just have a disclosure to make. I, during my campaign, engaged Computer Artistry to do some graphics work and some publishing preparation for me. I don't have an ongoing business relationship with them. The payments I made were on an individual case-by-case basis. So as I said, because there's no ongoing relationship, I don't feel I have a conflict, and I'll be voting on this matter. Sufficient, Ben?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. So David, can you talk a little bit about?
For the record, David Peterson, Executive Director with the CTA. Thank you, Mike. So if you'll recall from the March meeting, this contract, sorry about that. This contract is with Tara Burke, who owns Computer Artistry, and her response to the RFP that went out was just for graphic design, and so this contract will be specifically for the events. So she does a lot of the prep work for posters, so that sort of graphic design. And again, this $30,000 is what we're estimating between tomorrow with your approval today, excuse me, through the end of next fiscal year.
And that's in line with kind of the business we've done with her in the past? With her
Correct, yeah. So in the past, we've spent anywhere between about $20,000 and $28,000 per fiscal year, or for 12 months, I guess, but we're converting it into a fiscal year contract moving forward.
Any questions from board members regarding this? Go ahead.
So it's the remainder of the current fiscal year and next fiscal year, if I read that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And I apologize for missing the March meeting, but the question I have on both 7 and 8 that I spoke briefly to you about, Dave, and Ben can weigh in. At the board level, when we look at a contract, we see the bottom line of all of the respondents. Not the individual score sheets, but there's a summary of how all of the respondents performed relative to the RFP. I guess I have nothing against Computer Artistry. I just from a transparency perspective would, if I were to just look at this as a member of the public and see only this, I don't see anything else about any of the other respondents, about how they did, about how this selection was made. And I don't know if, I don't plan to change my vote because of that. I just, in the future, would like to see more detail relative to that. So there's enough light of day so that if the public were to look at this, they couldn't question the decision that we made. I think it protects us, and I think it protects the vendor as well. So I wanted to make that comment.
No, thank you. And what I understood to be that these will sort of be one-off projects, or will they do all the graphic design?
For computer artistry. So Tara would be handling things outside the CTA's content development, brand work, and the PR, external communication. So it's for the different events that we support as the CTA. And yes, you're right, there's sort of those one-off projects for the events, yeah.
Okay.
And again, I'm not looking to create a ton of extra work, and I'm not looking to, as you and I spoke, David, about the, releasing what's confidential versus what's not confidential. And I guess I would just ask to disclose as much as you're comfortable, as much as you can, in working with the district attorney's office to just be as transparent as we possibly can be.
Understood, yeah.
Now, everyone who could put in for parts or all of the RFP, right? And the computer artistry chose just to pick this portion of it. Am I correct?
That is correct, yeah, based on their prior work that they were doing for the CTA, yes.
Any other questions from the board? Can we get a motion?
Sure. I move to approve contract number 1920-002 with Computer Artistry for graphic design for a total not to exceed amount of $30,000.
Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion approved. On to action item 8, discussion and possible action regarding approval contract number 1920-001 with KPS3 for creative content development, public relations, and external communications for a total not to exceed amount of $130,000. David?
So this is the primary vendor that the evaluation committee chose to move forward with as far as the CTA's creative content, creative development, public relations, external communications. The $130,000 is from tomorrow through the end of next fiscal year, and then we also have the ability to extend that contract by 2 additional fiscal years. So KPS3 will be the primary creative development vendor under contract with us moving forward. And so that's the point of differentiation between the contract that you just approved for Tara, who will handle those events that sit outside of our primary core marketing efforts and branding efforts.
Questions from board members on how the process, or any questions with KPS3?
Thank you. On the contract Exhibit A, in the project approach, it speaks to discovery and talks about immersion trip and discovery and general discussion and interviews. Are the board members going to be interviewed as part of that process?
For the record, yes. So we're actually, when KPS3 comes up under the next agenda item, they're going to address that, and then I am too under my executive director report, but the answer to that question
So
is yes.
is this part of this agenda item or the next agenda item? Want me to hold
So-
it further away or closer?
No, so, no, sorry. I could go, no, so what you have in your hand, that's a part of this particular
Okay.
agenda item, but the
Okay.
way that we work this out with Ben to have KPS3 do a presentation, we're going to do that under 9.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, maybe some of these will get answered there, but I'll ask them now. And I see there's a space for a business license. I assume that they're going to get a Carson City business license.
They have already taken care of that.
Perfect.
Yes.
And just one editorial comment relative to, is it Jillian Griffith? Is that her name? She says that his favorite Carson City memory, if you ask me, there's no view more stunning than the one you're treated to from high up on Mount Rose, overlooking the Carson Valley. It's just a pet peeve of mine that we're not the Carson Valley. we're Eagle Valley. So Carson Valley is Minden, Gardnerville, Douglas County. So it's just, I just want to bring that up because I try and correct that wherever that shows up, so.
Stacy, or Mike, if I may jump in on that, that is one thing that we realize is an issue. And as a part of this branding effort that we're going to be going through, it's to clearly give some brand identity to Carson City to differentiate us from Carson Valley. So, yeah, they're aware of that, we're aware of that, and we're trying to make that differentiation with respect to the visitor as well.
If I could, I believe we discussed that during our meeting about there's a clear line of demarcation.
It's just a pet peeve of mine
There'll be no
because-
prisoners taken.
Yeah.
If you're,
You hear it a lot. The TV weather people are really good about that, you know, saying, you know, weather in Carson Valley, and then they show Carson City's temperature.
yeah.
Blah.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board?
None.
Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I move to approve contract number 1920-001 with KPS3 for creative content development and public relations external communications for a total not to exceed the amount of $130,000.
Get a second?
I'll second that one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion approved. All right, moving on to action item 9, possible discussion, and possible action regarding determination that KPS3 is the most appropriate bidder as a result of the CCCTA request for proposal 1920-102 web digital development and e-marketing customer relation management. And to direct staff to draft an agreement with terms consistent with RFP number 1920-102 and the proposal submitted by the selected bidder. David?
Thank you, Mike. So this was the second RFP that we went through a formal process, and that was to determine who we would select for our web digital developer and CRM e-marketing provider. KPS3 was chosen. There were 7 total proposals, Stacy, that we did receive, so I was very pleased with the response, and they were very solid proposals. I mean, this was very tight scoring in terms of the way the proposals were ranked. So today, I'm requesting the permission from the board to start negotiating with KPS3 to bring this particular contract back in front of all of you at the May meeting. And I can provide any additional details you would like as far as process or what'll be covered in this particular contract, if you would like that.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice for the board to hear and the thought process behind selecting KPS3 as our web and digital folks too, and the synergy that might create.
Yeah, so I've working at the state, we've kind of, in the past, we did this one of 2 ways. We either looked for a single vendor to almost be that integrated marketing agency of record where they would handle everything, marketing, buying ads, website development, the CRM, PR. We obviously had to split this up into 2 different RFPs, but I think by having KPS3, we'll recognize that synergy just from a staff perspective. You don't have a second company involved as we roll out the brand and the look and the feel. It's the same team, right, that's a part of the conversations, and you'll see that carried out throughout visitcarsoncity.com as well as the visitcarsoncity.biz site when we bring the industry portal online as well. And to that effect, this particular contract does cover what we need are some work on the front end and the back end of visitcarsoncity.com. We need to get tracking in place on that website as well for our different advertising campaigns so that we can see conversions and engagement happening correctly on the website and to be able to attribute what's taking place on that website. It'll cover the build out of the new portal, visitcarsoncity.biz, where we'll be able to engage all of our tourism partners, hotels, restaurants, museums, the different assets, outfitters, whatever the case may be, to have a place for them to go and create their login, their profile, and then have that data, that information flow into the consumer-facing, the .com website. We'll also be rolling out, which I'm excited, a customer relationship management tool as well, so we can begin remarketing to these folks, whether that's via email initially or maybe through our social channels as well. So really looking at this contract to provide us with the web presence that we need, but also to integrate our social media channels in with visitcarsoncity.com, where we really see driving, all that traffic to that website moving forward. So that's just an overview of how this contract will play out.
Thank you. Questions or concerns from the board?
Yes, I just want to make sure that whatever transpires during this contract period, whether it's a one-year contract or a two-year contract, that when and if it ends with KP S3, I just want to make sure that all of that content and material still belongs to the CCTA.
Yeah, so that's actually a part of, in the contract, right, with the CTA, city, we own all of, whether it's an ad that's developed and designed by KPS3, or the website itself, we absolutely own and retain ownership of any of those materials. And then from a hosting perspective, we will stay with Carson City. So we'll have Carson City IT still host the website as well, so we retain control over the hosting of the website, and then, of course, we own the domains. Those are purchased on our behalf by the Carson City, by Eric and his team, as far as any domain registrations and ownership. So, I don't have any concerns, Mike, about us not owning something, should the contract end, or a year and a half from now, or 3 years from now. We'll retain ownership of all those creative assets, video, banner ads, print ads, whatever the case may be,
Thank you.
And Lydia, I know this is a big part of you. You've already built, started to build a relationship as far as content development. But how does this, you sort of one-stop shopping now, and you see this being a positive for your marketing efforts?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
social media efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the biggest reasons why we wanted to have them do both in the final decision, because there are parts of the campaign that they normally take care of for some of their other clients, like the media buying aspect, that I actually do in-house. So to have a third party take on the website and create 3 separate parties would have honestly been confusing for everyone. And especially since we don't really have that foundation of a brand really underneath us quite yet, building that synergistically is just really important to me. So it just made the most sense. And plus their proposal and their work that they've done with some of their other clients was also really impressive in making that decision. So I'm really excited to have a one-stop shop, just because it is me. And they've been a great team to work with so far. And even just through the interviews and seeing what they're capable of, I'm excited to start that partnership.
Great. I don't know if anyone from KPS3 would like to comment. Leave your Carson Valley in your chair.
David, we spoke briefly about this when I was doing the introductory meeting with you, but in terms of the .biz side of things, I'd like to see a good bit of information on economic development, and I think we talked about that, but I think that benefits everything, that the CTA is responsible for. But so I just want to confirm that there's a way, for instance, for NNDA to put information there, or the Chamber of Commerce could do that, or even the city, because we often get links or questions in the planning department about what are the requirements for this or that. And so all of that could be incorporated there from an economic development standpoint. If the city or someone wanted to develop that content, then it could be developed and then rolled into this, correct?
absolutely.
And that would be the responsibility of that agency. So if it was NNDA
Right.
or the city or the chamber, they would have to develop the content. And then KPS3 would help with the integration, or we would help with the integration, right?
That's correct, yeah. We would treat that in a similar fashion as we build out different parts of that .biz website, because I also see a research and kind of statistics
Well,
section
and that's
as
kind of
well.
what I'm talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, when businesses are looking to relocate to an area that they look for statistics, medium home, age group, all of that kind of stuff. And that's kind of scattered hither and yon right now. And I could really see that being beneficial to have it in one place, so.
I completely agree, yeah, and I talked to Ronnie Hanneman a little bit about doing just that, getting some of the business information onto our website as well. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I would love to see us as being a place where people can come to if you're looking for what's the economic impact of tourism, right? We can have some data that sits on the website, but also have the ability to click off if you want to get into sort of one of those sites through the state where you can actually play with the numbers, and go through a separate portal, but at least have some of those basic figures, visitor statistics as well, have a visitor profile on the .biz website. So I love the economic impact or economic development side of this as well. Again, I know it's going to be tough to be all things to all people.
Right.
But I think just starting to get that information and have it in one place would make, I think, decision-making, whether it's somebody that wants to bring a new hotel here. When we talk with folks at my place, that are opening up the property later on this fall, we had to give them all of this information as PDFs or PowerPoints. We had a meeting with Jason Welk and his team as well, and he commented, it'd be nice if there was a place to get this information without having to call you, and then you're having to send these big files back and forth. So, and I said, well, just wait until a little later next fiscal year, and we'll have a place where a lot of that data will reside, and you can kind of one-stop shop it and print it for yourself or go in and play with the numbers. Looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, KPS 3, come on up.
All right, my name is Andy Walden. I am the VP of Client Strategy at KPS3. Want to do a quick introduction?
Chrissy Yabu, Senior Public Relations Director, KPS3.
And I'm Jenna Hubert, Creative Director of KPS3.
And I'm Rachel Curran, Senior Account Director at KPS3.
You want to slide up and get another chair?
Yeah, I'm going to just swap out with Andy.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Perfect. I don't even need a clicker. This is great. So we are KPS3. We've been in business for 27 years. We have roughly about 30 employees that work currently with us, and we are based out of Reno, Nevada. We do have an extensive experience in government side and the tourism side, so we are up here quite a bit talking to some of our government clients, such as DHHS. We also work with the Attorney General's office and then Nevada State Parks. So from the tourism side, we are going to talk a little bit around Santa Maria later on, but that is a full service client that we represent. In addition, we also work with the Reno Tahoe Airport, as well as some of the other ski resorts around town. We are really excited to be working with you. So with that, I am a native Nevadan. I grew up here in Reno, but I do recall a lot of baseball being played up here from Reno High to Little League All-Stars. And so going through here, being able to drive through Carson City is one of my childhood memories. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to share the Carson City story. And that was one of the things that I think when we were asking people about their own personal stories, that we see such a wonderful opportunity to share. That people really do have their specific stories that are really specific and unique towards Carson City. However, they necessarily didn't have a platform to be able to share that. And so I think that's one of the things that I personally am really excited to see. And I know that from the team, that is something that was shared across. So with that, I'm going to hand that over to Rachel to talk a little bit around Santa Maria.
To Jenna.
I'm going to introduce you to Santa Maria. So we would like to just take you through this case study. and how we approach an integrated tourism marketing campaign. We needed people to essentially take the exit off the 101 to the Santa Maria Valley. It is located between San Francisco and Los Angeles, but more importantly, it's located between Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo. So part of our task was to make sure that we were putting Santa Maria Valley on the map and making that the location where people wanted to stay to explore the Central Coast. Our objectives were to increase the overall awareness for Santa Maria Valley, including its assets, events, and local flavor in an effort to attract visitors and increase travel spending. We wanted to increase the number of targeted, unique website visitors to the new site so that we may best influence their decision to visit the area and plan their trip, and develop strategic and cohesive marketing and communication efforts for the area. So I know the immersion trip and the interviews came up earlier. We did this for Santa Maria Valley as well. So we went down there, we talked to everybody from government officials to store owners to restaurant owners, and then people visiting. And we defined these 6 pillars for Santa Maria Valley based on what we found during that discovery meeting. And these really, we reference them to this day. We did this trip in 2016. And every decision that we make is informed by these core values that we developed for them. So that's their unexpected wine experience, their genuine culture. It's naturally unconstrained. They have some beautiful natural value, deep roots and full flavor. That was a nod to their agriculture background. And it's the ideal home base, again, getting people to stay there to explore the Central Coast. And it's a real value, especially compared to their surrounding areas of Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo.
In terms of communications, we call our approach to PR, content, and social media the triple threat of communications. And a lot like Santa Maria Valley, I think, for Carson City, this is where the sum is really greater than the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So with the strategy, not just for them, but for you, it will be the efficiency and there's synergies of the 3 disciplines working together in a digital and a analog space, so to speak. With our PR strategy, it is basically centered around a proactive media relations strategy. I am in the travel space, and believe it or not, the travel space is quite small in this world. We talk to the same types of reporters, influencers, and bloggers on a consistent basis. I'm traveling to New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco a lot to meet with them in person. In addition to that, we also have a good FAM sort of structure, how we evaluate press trips for people coming to the region. And again, creating synergies with folks like Travel Nevada to make those trips worthwhile for all of the people that visit here. And then thirdly, something that I'm very proud of is our forging of relationships with key partners in the industry, one of which is Visit California. And I sort of see the same opportunity there with Travel Nevada. Having known these folks on the PR team and worked with them in the past, it's already a great a start to the relationship. But really taking opportunity and advantage of the folks coming to town, having them on our radar, working with them on content integration with their channels is just going to amplify the message across the board. With content, our approach is really just to be genuine, authentic, and well-researched. So everything that we do on the content side is written by us and informed by, information and talks with people that are out there in the community that make it sing. And with social, it's really a part that engages and informs. So again, all 3 working together for those efficiencies across digital, owned, and earned media and digital spaces.
So if talking about efficiencies a little bit more, the PR and the content and social media strategy blends right in with our website development, and one sort of informs the other. So this is an example of the website that we built for Santa Maria Valley from the ground up, and you'll see all of the content there from wineries and breweries to a list of eat and drink destinations, wine country done differently. We have multiple pages that were built custom for Santa Maria Valley based on the brand pillars that were uncovered in Discovery, and then built with the content that was developed from the content team. And so really, one informs the other, and we're really excited because this serves as a perfect example of what we are able to do for Carson City, creating that efficiency and really being able to move forward as efficient as possible, and quickly and without any real hitch, because we're all on the same team. So I wanted to give you a snapshot of Santa Maria Valley's performance since the launch of their site in 2016. So this was since October. We've had 185,000 new visitors, 3.26 million impressions in Google, and we saw 126% year-over-year growth in hotel conversions. That's clicks from the website to hotel pages. That's from March 2018 to March 2019. So, wanted to then talk about our next steps with Carson City. It's discovery. And so a lot of these pieces can actually happen concurrently. First up, we have analytics, and we want to take a look at your past campaign content and audit that, as well as the analytics. And then we'll look into the competition set, and then go into our brand immersion and do some internal interviews to really uncover what Carson City means to your community. So we're here to answer any questions that you may have. We brought some sample reporting. Little birdie told us that there might be some questions around that, so we wanted to show what we've done for Santa Maria Valley as an example. I'm happy to go into that right now if preemptively, unless there is a specific question around it. Okay, great. So through discovery and through establishing our goals with Santa Maria Valley, we determined their key performance indicators, or their KPIs, and their conversions are one of four things. So a hotel page view, an outbound hotel click, an outbound event click, or an outbound attraction click. So if folks did one of those four things, that would be counted as a conversion. So we report on those monthly. We report on website sessions as a measure of growth. So that's the trend line that you see there. The red is this year, the green is last year. And so we measure year over year session growth, as well as year over year organic growth. So everything is moving in the right direction, lots of green arrows. It's everything that we like to see. We also report on public relations from a reach perspective and the value of coverage. So Chrissy uses a program called Cision that provides us with that information. So we're getting that dialed in for Carson City right now, and we'll be able to provide those figures for you as well. We report on social media, and we just do a nice recap of any new content that's developed there. So on the right, you'll see 3 of the new blog posts that were published in January, and some of our top hits on social media, as well as in the traditional media, some of our top stories that we were garnered.
I'd say through the discovery process, that's something that we would want to define with you. So, for example, if we're actually looking for specific traffic to hotels, we'd want to make sure that that's part of our KPIs that we're defining up front. But you may also have some other things like newsletter subscribers or something to that extent that we may also want to capture. But that's really what the discovery process is to be able to define what success will look like in the coming year, so we can then be able to track against that. This is specific to Santa Maria, but we know that yours will be customized for you.
How long do you think the discovery process takes before we're, seeing results or we're on a path?
Sure. So I think the interview process and all of that would probably take 2 to 3 weeks, but I think a month overall before we have a very firm understanding of the direction that we want to take.
Mike, or Stacy, could I just add one thing to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
The other part of what I want to do too, so we'll have stakeholder interviews with industry partners here in Carson City, but I've been chatting with the KPS 3 team over the last week, I do want to bring in an element of consumer research as well, of potential visitors, right? So we'll look at, repeat visitors, new visitors, but I also, and not just surrounding areas. So as we evolve and we look at the LA DMA, the San Francisco DMA, Sacramento DMA, maybe Phoenix as well, or Salt Lake City, to throw some research out there at people in these DMAs, right, that we're going to be advertising to understand as we get, the brand in place and the pillars, is this making sense to visitors? Because sometimes, we're so myopic, right? We're here, we're in Carson City, and maybe we're seeing something a certain way, but it needs to resonate with the visitor, right? Or that's what we're trying to do, right? Is drive visitation. So there'll be a consumer piece to this as well, probably quantitative, I think, in nature, but just to support and back up the industry stakeholder interviews that we're going to do as well. So I just wanted to add that in there for the board to know that there will be a consumer research piece to this whole process as well.
Yeah, all of our decisions are based on data and research, and so that's really going to inform the plan. And I think our analytics audit will also inform a lot of that too.
And that was going to be my comment. I wondered how you're going to pick who you interview. Because if I understand your presentation, your pillars for Carson City are going to be based on that immersion and that interview process. And so from my perspective, everything that follows has to be lined up with that. So to me, that has to be right. That first part has to be right. So if it takes a month to do that instead of 2 weeks, I'm fine with that, because from my perspective, if you don't get it right in the front end, then everything you do beyond that is based on bad information. So if you aren't feeling comfortable at the front end that your immersion trips or your interviews are not garnering a solid direction for those 6 pillars or 5 pillars or whatever, then our pillars are going to crumble at some point.
Sure.
So David's points are great, because it's good to get people who live here, but we're trying to drive visitors here. So unless we talk to visitors and ask them what their experiences have been here and what they like about here and why they've come here, then I think we're going to have pillars on non-solid foundations. So obviously this is up to David in terms of the timing of that, but I'd really like to see and make sure we focus on that front end stuff and not constrain ourselves by time. I mean, I don't want it to drag out forever, but in my mind, we want to get it right on the front end. So if you have to extend the time, to me, that's where it would be, unless you guys see it differently.
Thank you. No, thank you very much. And I think the pacing of everything, we need to have some pacing to it. So we will build the brand pillars first. We're not going to put the cart before the horse and start working on the brand until we have brand pillars established. And until that foundation is solid, we won't move forward.
Yeah, I'm thinking Stacy must have been in on our conversation last week, because we were talking about if we have to measure twice, thrice cut once. This is our opportunity to move forward, right? And so we do want to take the time to get it right, because I don't want to have to go through this process 6 months or a year from now because we have an oops, we missed something. So I genuinely agree with you. And before we put time into developing and building out the website as well, we want to make sure we get these first steps done and taken care of. That way we're ready to roll when we begin working on Visit Carson City.
Yeah, I wasn't in on the meeting, but I'm just a little bit smarter than I look.
Yeah, no, you, Mike, you were wrong, but I'm not going to say which Mike said that.
No, he's talking about this mic.
What other questions can we answer?
No, and that was, leading up to that, you spoke of FAMs, and I'm sure the FAMs come after the pillars?
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yes.
So, and then we select the travel industry people that we think that support those pillars?
Yes, we will go through a process of evaluation of identifying who might be a good fit for us based on our budgetary limitations and all of those things, and maybe talking a little bit with who else is coming from the Travel Nevada side and putting together those synergies as well. And then looking at, we also get requests we'll start to get requests. You're going to start to see demand after a certain point of time. So what is the process of evaluation there? And how much do we have left in terms of our budget to accommodate for the years? So those are the types of things we'll be working on after the initial discovery phase.
Mike, may I just add, Mike, can I add, please? So from the FAM perspective, I've met with Denny Dotson up in Story County at Virginia City Tourism Corporation. Lydia and I had the opportunity to meet with Jan Vandermeid and Heidi Sacido from Carson Valley Visitors Bureau last week as well. So we're, again, building these relationships with our fellow DMOs in the area because we see, again, an opportunity maybe through grants or with a travel writer or a group of travel writers, right, to work together collaboratively to sell this entire area, not just to come to Carson City, but to come to Carson City, go down to Genoa, go to Lake Tahoe, go up to Virginia City. So I think, our conversations over the last couple of weeks with KPS3 have been about that very, very opportunity, I think, that we'll have in front of us to be collaborative with our fellow DMOs because we can get more bang for the buck, right? And then we can share some of those costs as well. So we're not just paying to have a travel writer come here in full, right? Thinking that they're only going to come to Carson City because they're going to want to see the lake. They're going to want to see Reno and Spark. So I think to be collaborative with our DMO partners, and it's great because they have a great relationship with the other DMOs, in Northern Nevada. So I think this will serve us very well.
Well, I would add that I think that's critical because I think anyone who's lived here knows that while there are great things to see and do here, I think one of the main attractions, and I don't want to drive the pillars, but one of the main attractions of Carson is that we are in close proximity to all of those other things. And I think it'd be ridiculous of us to ignore that, this as a home base makes a lot of sense to reach some of those other things in an affordable way. And, even 10 years ago, we didn't have the hotel volume to be able to even have a discussion like we're having now because we didn't have the space to put people that, we didn't have brand hotels. We didn't have
product.
We didn't have product. And so, I think you're spot on. So thank you.
And I think I know the answer, but I'm assuming when the discovery's over and the pillars are the suggested pillars, there's going to be a presentation for the board that we can discuss and sort of
Yes.
dig into.
And this, and if I could just add to, this will all tie into the strategic planning process as well. So I'm working on some stuff, but we also need this information as well to tie into the strategic planning process and to create that document. And all of this will also help with communications planning and marketing plans as well as we move forward. But yeah, so there are a lot of moving pieces. My hope is, in talking with KPS3, that we may be able to bring at least a draft of the strategic plan in front of you all in July, at that July meeting. So my fingers are crossed, but we think that's doable at this point, so.
Great. Any other questions from the board or concerns? No? No, he keeps pointing, no?
May have been a finger, Dave, but I don't think it was a
All right, then can I get a motion for action item 10 or 9?
Yes, I move to select KPS3 as the most appropriate bidder as a result of the request for the proposal number 1920-102, Web Digital Development and E-Marketing with Customer Relationship Management, and to direct staff to draft an engagement with terms consistent with the RFP number 1920-102 and the proposal submitted by KPS3.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passed.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for spending some time with us today, and hopefully we'll see some great things coming up here and
Appreciate the opportunity.
soon. All right.
Thank you. Sure.
Is that the new tagline? We're not Carson Valley.
on to item 10, discussion and possible action regarding approval of CTA Statement of Accounts Payable Checks and P-Card Report for February 19. David?
Thank you, Mike. So now we get into the fun part of the meeting. So in front of you, in your packet, you have the account activity statements for the accounts payable checks totaling $151,683.06, and the P-card purchases totaling $11,163.59 for February 2019. So with the chair's approval, I'll just hit some of the highlights on each of those. So in terms of accounts payable checks, first line, Bank of America, so those were the P-card charges for January, just over $12,000. Carson City Square LLC, that was the February 2019 rent for $5,034. The certified folder display services, just under $3,500. That was the distribution. Again, this takes us from February 1st through June 30th to complete the fiscal year. So we've got locations in and around our area here, North Lake Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe, Reno, and then Northern Nevada along Interstate 80 as well. If I missed anything, Lydia, jump in. Epic Rides, so this is payment 2 of 2 for the 2019 event, just under $29,000, so both payments done in the books. The muscle-powered payment, I know this was back on the January meeting where we approved the payment for the artistic bike racks, but by the time everything works its way through the system, it showed up on this month's accounts payable checks. And then,
David?
Yeah.
Are we done with that? Is this the final payment or
for
for
Epic,
the bike racks? What's
for the bike,
yeah.
for the bike racks, done.
We're-
Yep.
Okay.
We're not on the hook for any additional payments. That was in full for those bike racks to be finished and installed. Yes, that's correct. And then the annual disbursement for the V&T, not the additional dollars. This is the $65,000 payment. That also hit this month as well. And then Department of Taxation, so that's the 3/8 of 1% that we remit to the state, which funds the Division of Tourism for just over $5,000. And then the Nevada Momentum, 5135. Most of those dollars were actually for the visitor's guide that just came out. But again, remember, we're on the lag by the time the payments hit. And then the Sierra Nevada Media Group for $5,000. Those were for the internet ads that ran for the month of January. So those are some highlights on the accounts payable checks. If there are any questions, happy to answer.
Yeah, I just have a question. Can you, are we tracking the results of the Sierra Nevada Media Group internet ads? And if so, how are they looking?
So we're no longer using them. That was our last payment, and we haven't for the last 2 months. So we saw a higher bounce rate than we had liked, but we also wanted to switch over to using the Avante Interactive, where I'm doing all the buying for the digital ads now. So that was also a large switch to take everything in-house to have more control. So it was not a bad campaign by any means, but we wanted to bring it in-house and have more control.
Thank you.
I have a question on the Epic Rides. That's the second payment. Was the first one, I don't recall. Or is it around the same amount? And is that every year?
So yes, for this fiscal year, 2 payments, exact same amount. It does go up for fiscal '20, and off the top of my head, I don't know exactly how much it goes up. It's I think $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, but I'll send the board that information for what the total cost is for fiscal '20. But yes, identical payments 1 and 2 in terms of the amount. Mhm.
Mr. Chair? May I? On the P-card payment, is it just, and so forgive me if this is part of my newness, but I'm looking at the P-card statement, which I know you haven't covered yet, but the check to B of A is for a period that was previous to this, so it doesn't match? Right. Is it a pain to attach the period that goes with the check disbursement to this when you give it to us?
We could do that, but then you're gonna get, we could do that, but we reviewed those last month.
Yeah,
But I can do that if you want.
Maybe we don't need it. Maybe I'm just
And
asking for something
sometimes they'll
that's-
be a little bit different, like last month, it was $64 difference, and it was like IT bought something for us and just put, when they paid.
Right,
Bank
yeah,
of
I remember how
America,
that
so-
was, yeah.
But yes, I can do that if you want.
That's okay. I get what you're, I mean, we're still approving it, so it's probably fine. I don't want to make you do extra work. Thank you.
Is it okay if I move on to the P card?
Yes.
Mike? Okay, thank you. So the first line you see, Inc., We Are Travel Me. This was for the half-page ad in the National. There was a duplicate, so it went on to Lydia's P card and to Chris's P card, so we've got a credit that we've requested that we're gonna be getting back on that one, so I just wanted to let the board know that. Thinking back to last month, you saw the same $3,500 charge, so we're getting that one fixed. The Reagan Communications, that was actually for the registration fee for the social media conference that Lydia went to. The next one, $1,275, that was the February-March issue of the American Sports Journal. Did I miss one? Oh, and then on the Reach Local, so the $1,000, if you skip to the second page, page 2 of 2, that is also the last payment, again, with us bringing the media buying in-house, with Lydia handling that moving forward. That's the last $1,000 payment to Reach Local for the geofencing campaign that they were doing with YouTube. So if there are any questions on any of the other charges, I'm happy to address those.
Lydia, I might ask you to just talk a little bit about, so people don't think we just sent you to Disney
I know.
World.
I am wholly
that you
prepared
might
to address
discuss
that.
conference
I
and
have
what
that
we
in some
got
of my
out.
presentations too.
Oh, okay, well,
But,
if you can wait.
But I will, since we are talking about it, I've been on a conference tour in the month of March, went to 3 conferences in a matter of 3 weeks. One in Florida, that was the Reagan Communications Conference. They actually hold it at a Disney resort. And you're in a creative mecca of Disney. So from a marketing perspective, there's really no greater place to be than at Disney. And the conference itself was probably one of the best content that I've seen in a long time. They had speakers from Twitter, from Facebook, but also from Wendy's, which is like the pinnacle of social media right now. People from HBO who've worked on Game of Thrones, the Harmon brothers who have done incredible commercials. So the amount of knowledge I gained from that one, which was probably my favorite, was well worth it. So I almost felt guilty being there for a while because I'm at Disney. It was the first time I had ever been there. And I really enjoyed that conference, and I feel like it was very, very much well worth it. And then our other ones were the Destination Marketing Association, which was in Albuquerque, which was a tech conference. So it really tied in how to do that with social media. And this last one was a Tourism and Travel Research Association. So we also got to tie in the research to that. So having all of them within the same month was actually really beneficial in being able to confirm a lot of the things that I learned.
Any questions, concerns on the P card? If you, they, don't mind. Then if I could get a motion to approve?
I move to approve CTA account activity statement of accounts payable checks and P card charges for February 2019.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on to action item 11, discussion and possible action regarding approval of adjusted CTA fiscal year 19 budget report. David?
Thank you, Mike. So in your packet, you all have a comparative statement of the adjusted revenue totaling $1,361,838.88, expenses totaling $962,910.36, and a fund balance for all the CTA funds totaling $2,025,535.52. So I'll just hit some of the highlights on this particular package of information. So just as a reminder, this is the 8th accounting period, so it's through February, which is about 67% of fiscal 19. Taking a look at the revenues, and just remind everybody again, the revenue is through January, so just with the lag in terms of collections again. So the report is through February, but the revenues you see in here are through January's business activity. So again, we're 67% of the year. Our revenues are pacing at 64.1%, but again, that's through January, not through February, right? If all things were equal, so we're doing pretty well from that perspective. So we, again, just a little over 1.36 million in actual revenues so far. If you'll turn to page 4 of 5, I'll just hit again some of the highlights. So contractual agreement services 0349. We're at $145,000. So as a reminder to the board, that includes the payments to Epic. It also includes the auditor payments and then the payments that were made to Joel that we've finished because he was underneath this particular line item with a contract that he had. Office equipment rental lease, that is again for our printer in back. So that's the $43,664. Just as a reminder, the insurance is paid in full at the beginning of the year, so that's why we're sitting there at that 98.4% of our projection. Special events, if you recall, we approved the $20,000 for All World Sports for that cooperative marketing, so that's included in that $38,631. Plus, those small event costs as well. So when we were talking about the computer artistry contract earlier, we put those graphic design amounts that we're paying Tara and will continue to pay Tara moving forward, they go under that particular line item as well. So it's, again, not just the All World Sports amount. So we're sitting at just over $495,000 so far for services and supplies. And then page 5, again, that is the breakdown that we supply to taxation. And that's just a roll-up of the revenues and the expenses and then that total fund balance for all the different funds. So just highlights. I'm happy to address anything in particular if the board would like.
Anything? Did we discuss the printer reimbursement?
So I was going to cover that under the executive director report, but if you'd
That's fine.
like me to do that now, I certainly can.
I'm fine, if you cover it.
Okay, but I do have that.
Any other questions from the board? And if not, I'll get a motion to comment. Sure.
So I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to make it known that I met with Chris last Thursday prior to this meeting, and as the board treasurer, I'm going to start having monthly meetings with her, and you too, David, just prior to the meeting, so probably on the Thursday. And it was educational and very informative, so I look forward to our future meetings, so that if we have any questions, we can get them cleared up prior to the meetings.
I'm looking forward to that as well, so I appreciate that, Mike. Yeah, very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I would encourage all of us, if you have questions, to just become more educated and understand this. This is our report card that we get every month. Good thing to understand it, so great.
And the other thing I'd like to say is Chris, she works very hard, and as you know, and very good at what she does, and we're very lucky to have her, so just want to make that comment.
I completely agree.
Any other comments, questions? Trish, no? All right, if I could get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the adjusted fiscal year 19 budget report as presented through February 28, 2019.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on to item 12, non-action items, presentation and discussion only. David, you want to start us off?
Thank you, Mike. So the first thing I want to talk about, which I'm super excited to be able to bring to the board's attention, back on March 22nd, we were able to bring together the Division of Museums and History. So we had Peter Barton, the administrator, the 2 museum directors of the Nevada State Museum, Myron Friedman, and the Nevada State Railroad Museum's director, Dan Thielen, along with the V&T Railway Commission's GM, Elaine Spencer. We had 2 of her commissioners, Mike Santos, who we share and appreciate very much, and Stan Jones, as well as Argentum partners. Molly Emery was there as well because they handle PR and then in conjunction with Brain Trust, the marketing and the web development for the V&T Railway. So it was the first ever meeting bringing all of these groups together. And we covered a lot of ground. You know, we talked about collaboration between our respective entities moving forward, cross-promoting one another. We talked a lot about needs for programming, right, up at the East Gate, as well as some opportunities that I think we may have with our two museum properties here in Carson City. And the one thing I'm very excited about is the development of packages. And I'll, Mike S., if you want to chime in at any point, but right now we're specifically looking at a 150th anniversary package for the 150 sesquicentennial for the V&T Railroad, right? And I'm excited about this because I think we're going to be able to bring the different cultural assets that we have together. So, you can get a ride on the V&T Railroad. You'll also have a museum ticket for the State Railroad Museum as well as the State Museum. So we're going to bring these different elements into the visitors' experience when they come to Carson City. And I think we know there are issues. There's a disconnect with the visitor right now. They ride the V&T and they think that they were over at the State Railroad Museum. Conversely, somebody, gets on the Glenbrook, they think that they were at the, V&T, right? And we know that's not the case. So we had a great discussion about that. Again, I think a lot of things come back to programming, and how we set this up. And Myron Friedman also came up with this fantastic idea. So we have a package, we have the tickets. We're looking to bring a lodging partner or two into this, maybe a restaurant or two into this as well. And then Myron had this great idea with the Coin Press #1 to mint a coin, right, for these people that buy this package. So it sort of forces the visitor, right, to come and visit the State Museum to get their commemorative coin as a part of their experience. So we've got some great opportunity, I think, with this. And again, we're using the 150th kind of as a starting point for this. But as Mike S. and I have talked about this, we want to do packages throughout the course of the year around maybe some of the different trains, whether it's a wine train experience, it could be the Polar Express or whatever the case may be, depending on the time of the year. So I just wanted the board to be aware of what we're doing here, again, to try to bring some of these different groups together and really have a holistic visitor experience in Carson City. So.
Yeah, I attended the meeting and I came away with, I was surprised by three things. First was how eager both sides were to share their issues. They wanted to talk. The second was that their issue, both sides' issues, were almost the same. And the third thing I came away with surprised is this is the first darn meeting we've ever had with them. How long we don't talk to each other, and I know Mike had a lot to do with bringing that meeting together. And thanks, because I mean both sides have the same goal. And up until now, I guess we're dogs and cats, So, Mike, thanks for arranging that meeting.
You're welcome. When I first came onto the board here and got familiar with the V&T, I was under the impression that the museum and the V&T were all kind of one thing. And I still believe we are in a sense. I mean, it's about the trains and the history of the trains and the history of this area. And we talked about earlier, Stacy was talking about with KPS3 that we are the hub, this is the center, and, we go to all these different areas, and I think that can be true with the trains too. This package deal that we're going to offer for the 150th, I think it's a starting point, as you said, David, for future events and for oncoming or ongoing events throughout not only this year, but throughout the years. And I think we can make this a destination for not only the train enthusiasts, obviously, but the history buffs and anybody else that comes to this area. I mean, all the other events that we have coming into this area, the sporting events, the cultural events, the music events, that we can just promote the heck out of this and give somebody another reason to want to stay here in Carson City and go see that stuff. So I think it's a great opportunity. And thanks for involving me in it and coming to this, coming together with the meeting.
Of course, and one of the other really neat things is there was a award for the ticketing service to Fair Harbor. So the V&T Commission awarded to a new company. And what I loved about them, they're all about analytics, they're all about tracking, and they fully appreciate and understand web usability and web functionality and how you bring somebody through the purchase funnel in terms of the way that your website is developed. And my questions were around, okay, if we have a button, on our website that allows somebody to book a ticket or book a package, and so we'll track that, we'll have a partner referral, right, that'll go off. If we have the appropriate tracking in place, whether that's through a pixel technology or some sort of a parameter or UTM parameter of sorts, can they pick that up then on the V&T's website and then provide us with feedback that says, okay, 1,000 people clicked on book your V&T experience now, and it resulted in 50 packages being booked, or 50 tickets, or 20 packages, whatever the case may be. And they said, absolutely. And so I think when we start to really hone in on the analytics and working with these different partners and different vendors, I'm excited, to be able to have that reporting come back to us, so we can also see, are our marketing dollars working? If we put some money behind, sort of this 150th anniversary package, is it resulting in tangible bookings, of a V&T experience or the package, right? And we'll take that same approach too with our hotels, in Carson City as well. But it's just a kind of a small microcosm of how we can track something, I do believe, all the way through to purchase point as we move forward. So there's a cool tracking piece to this, and I think we got the right partners in place to make this happen. So. Okay, the second thing, and Mike, you brought this up about Konica Minolta. Again, credit to Chris and James, and Chris has obviously been working with Konica Minolta folks to figure out the overcharges that we've had basically from day one with respect to the lease. So per the Konica Minolta maintenance agreement, we have a monthly minimum volume of 25,000 clicks for color. And then anything over that minimum was supposed to be charged at 0.0427 cents per click. There's no monthly minimum for black and white clicks, so all of those clicks are charged at 0.0112 cents. And unfortunately, what happened is the monthly minimum volume of the 25,000 clicks was being applied to the black and white copies rather than the color. So we are going to receive $17,416.18 back as a refund based on them sort of inverting the black and white with the color click. So that's my update for all of you. Great work here with Chris and James to track this down, realizing there was something that just didn't look right, in terms of what we were running through the machine, and then what these other charges are that you guys were seeing on the accounts payable checks monthly report. So excited, get some money back, and now we've got the procedures in place so we know that we're being correctly charged on a monthly basis moving forward as well. So that's an update on the Konica Minolta lease printer situation. So any questions?
Great detective work to everyone involved.
And I did tell them that they don't get a cut of that 17,000. So they thought it was like a commission fee or something, but I said, no, we can't do that. This isn't the state.
Not even a lunch?
Well, if they buy, we can do that. The other thing that I'm working on right now with Jennifer Budge, who's the Parks and Recreation Director, is to update the 1% interlocal agreement between the CTA and the city. So this is, half of that agreement is sort of directly based on the events that we're bringing into the different facilities. And of course, we get the IT, the legal support with Ben, payroll, HR, et cetera, those functions. So we're working right now together on the specific piece as it relates to Parks and Recreation. And we'd like to build some flexibility in there, not only for the CTA, but also for Parks and Rec as well. Again, around the different tournaments, and I think there may be some opportunities with the MAC as well, and then maybe even some trail development opportunities. So Jen and I are going to meet with Ben this Friday afternoon, and we're going to work on the fiscal 20 interlocal agreement. And then my plan is to bring that back in front of all of you at the May meeting for your approval, and then we'll move it, as I understand, to the Board of Supervisors, I think at the first meeting in June. So that is just an update for you all on the 1% interlocal agreement. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about that, but happy to address those. Okay. And then the last thing that I just want to bring the board up to speed on. So I had a great meeting last week, Chris, Lydia, and James, and we went through and put together a list of different grant requests for the first cycle, fiscal 20, for the Nevada Commission on Tourism's marketing grant program. So right now we've got about 19 potential requests, and we whittled that down. So we're working on those over the next couple of weeks. The deadline is 4/26 at 5 p.m. So we've got our work cut out for us, but again, really looking at some different opportunities as it relates to some grant requests through the state. And again, also trying to look at, can we partner, with Carson Valley or with Denny up in Story County as well, because those grants sort of get a little bit of extra weighting when you can kind of combine forces with another DMO. So I just wanted to let everybody know that we're on it, and we're going to be submitting, I think, some wonderful grant requests here before the end of April. So with that concludes my executive director report. If there are any questions, happy to answer those at this time.
No, we're good.
No? Okay. Transient occupancy report, Chris?
So this report's for January of 2019. We have 838,302.06 for the top 5 properties. The top 6 through 13 is 350,241. RV properties coming in at 7,192.13, and the remaining at 15,221.35 for a total of $1,210,956.54. Most of those percentages are improving from last year and the year before. The calendar year, obviously, is just January. So we are up 195,000 from last year, which is 19.26%. For fiscal year, we're still down, but we're starting to see it climb back up after that FEMA stuff that we've been talking about the last few months, where everything was so down. In November, the fiscal year was down at down 10.97%. In December, we were down 9.3%. So now we're down 7.15%. So I think we're on the climb back up out of the difference there. For the trailing 12, we're $19,945,497.13, which is down 8.53% from 2018, and it's up 15% from 2017, and that's still probably part of that FEMA stuff there. So average daily rates for 19, top 5 is about $88.14, which is up 5 cents from last year. $50.18 for the top 6 through 13, which is up $3.32 from last year. And RVs are at 42.31, which is up 5.54% from last year. The RevPAR rates for 2019, the top 5 is 54.63, which is up 14% from 18. The top 6 through 13 is averaging 20.70, which is up 35.2% from last year. RVs, RevPAR is $2.61, which is up $1.03 from last year. The remaining is $5.86, which is up 96 cents from last year. Any questions on that side?
I thought January was very encouraging. It's usually a very difficult month in lodging, and to see those increases.
It's nice to see them in January.
It was nice. I don't know.
Given
if
the
we attribute
weather,
it to
right, yeah.
snow and,
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was, you saw that. That was nice.
Yeah.
Any questions on
Okay,
Chris?
so on the back side is the occupancy for January of 2019. I know you guys don't want me to go through all those numbers. Do you? We're just, they're
I
looking
think Stacy
up.
did. I was looking
No,
at him.
he's shaking his head no. We're going with
Oh,
that.
wow.
They want to move on to Lydia and James's presentation, so do you guys have any other questions?
But I do have a comment to make. At the Thursday's Board of Supervisors meeting last week, the board upheld the Planning Commission's issuance of a special use permit with some additional conditions for 277-unit RV park in tourist commercial directly north of the Carson Hot Springs. So, so it's permitted now. There's no building permit. This is just the first step in the process. I have no idea if the landowner or the developer is going to push forward, but the board, the special use permit was to allow the owner to have people stay up to 180 days. And some residents opposed that, and we added an extra condition to require that after a cumulative 180-day stay in that period, they have to vacate for 30 days before they can come back. And that was just to sort of prevent people from using it as a home. But the applicant's representative said that the intention is to have it be relatively short-term rentals, 30 to 45 to 60 days. So anyway, obviously anything over 28 gets exempt, but there's going to be some, if they build it, there'll be some more. 277 units is quite a bit. So, and they're going for an upper end park, so we'll see how it plays out.
I'm interested to see how that plays out. I'll just say that. And I hope it does end up being the higher end folks.
Well, those were the comments that they put on the record at both the planning commission meeting and at the board meeting, that they're going for higher end. They're going to have a pool and, so like I said, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, Chris? No? Oh, James, you ready? Events update?
Yes. So for the month of April, it has already started. This past weekend was the gun club. They had their annual trap shoot in association with the CYSSA organization, the shooting organization in California. The expected shooters that come from out of town for that was roughly over 200 plus shooters. And I was out there conducting surveys early in the morning. It was cold. The wind was blowing, but with this survey, it will help us analyze that event in general and what we do to help them with the marketing promotions of it. This was actually the first event that we were able to conduct a survey for the year. So in the next couple of weeks, or probably the next 6-7 months, we will be conducting surveys at all the events that we play a role in, so that we can analyze and be able to get some data of the out-of-town spenders, that are people are coming from out of town, the impact of the events in general to our economy, and hopefully it'll give us a good foundation for us to build on. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention, that this was an event that has already happened. This coming weekend, we have the Comstock Shootout. This is 2 tournaments, one for the girls beginning April 13th and 14th, and then at the end of the month, April 27th through 28th, will be the other shootout. What's important, I want to backtrack just a little bit in terms about the surveys. We met with Kyle Schultz and David. We kind of walked through some of the procedures and some of the questions that Commission on Tourism asks, so that we can kind of align some of our questionnaire to be of something of use to them, but also give them an opportunity to give us some feedback on how we asked the questions and how we approached having communications with them in terms of using some of the numbers that they have gathered throughout the years in terms of the economic impact of tourism in Carson City. In addition to that, we also were able to meet with Brian London, who runs a research firm based out of Florida, am I correct, David? To also fine tune our questionnaire even further so that we can come to a cohesive understanding of making sure that we're asking the right questions. That way we can collect the correct data. And so all this collaborative effort is gonna give us an opportunity to report at our next meeting some of the findings that we're able to find, so that you guys can have a understanding of the impact of some of these events, these tournaments, and also for me to analyze what we should do in terms of continuing to endorse or to cut back on some or support even more, depending on the findings that we come back from. So those are the two tournaments that's coming up. We'll be conducting surveys at both of those weekends. This is a partnership that we put together. The Nevada State Museum, this is their second year doing their Lay Day event. We consider the museum as one of our partners, so the success of the things that they do in terms of the marketing and the events that they provide and services that they provide for our community helps us tremendously in terms of us being able to market Carson City. So this is an event that we have supported for the past 2 years. Lay Day is typically, for those who have been to Hawaii or have participated, is typically happens in the first weekend in May. However, there's a conflict with Cinco de Mayo, so we didn't. Rachel, who puts this together for the museum, did not want to have that conflict and therefore has always done it the last weekend in April. So we helped put together the flyers for this, and they put out the press releases and market the best they can internally there too. This event here, the Sierra Nevada Robotics Showcase, actually took place in March. I didn't get a chance to present then, so figured I get to talk about this now. This event actually came about when last year I went to Las Vegas to learn more about some of the robotics tournaments that they were doing to see what we could do to bring something to the MAC. And after seeing the production that they have there and how big of an event that was, we obviously had to scale something down to where we could do it here in Carson City. The one that took place in Las Vegas was a state tournament, and I made some contacts there, which I was able to follow up on some of the local representatives for Nevada First, and encouraged them to do a regional tournament that we could potentially do at the MAC. This was the first year of doing this event. It was just on a smaller scale, which is why if you see up there in the flyers that it was done at the Carson High School. There was roughly around 23 teams. One team that I know of came from Sandy, Utah to participate in this. What's great about this event is it's a great group of young, intelligent, smart kids that are learning technology. But at the same time, the organizers that put this event together, they created other tours. We were able to tour. David, Lydia, and myself were able to go on this tour with some of these teams at the Tesla Gigafactory to provide an overall weekend experience to get people to, and that actually took place on the Friday night. So the encouragement was for them to come do some of these tours that we have scheduled for them on the Friday night in anticipation for the tournament starting on Saturday. As we move forward, hopefully it gets big enough to where we are able to draw more out-of-town teams to where we can potentially move this to the MAC facility. So those were the updates that I have for the month of April. Any questions?
So, James, what kind of lodging do you project that came out of this? You know, from people from outside the area that actually came in. I know you said
For the robotics one?
Yeah.
For that, from my understanding, there was only one out-of-town team that came from Sandy. There are regional teams, and let me rephrase that. There are teams that came from Sparks, Reno, but they don't really impact our lodging. One thing about most tournaments in general, though, if you do not have local participants, it's difficult for out-of-town teams to come and play themselves again, right? They would prefer to play new content or new people that are competing in this. And so this is for us in our community, for a smaller town, this is the right approach to start small and see what we can do to build on it to eventually where it can become an event that stands on its own.
Can I add to that too? They actually stopped by the office today, the coordinators of the robotics event, just to say thank you. This event was kind of planned a little bit more last minute than they normally do, and it was very close to another regional time. So a lot of the California teams were not able to make it to this one. So we're very hopeful that next year we'll be able to pull from a larger area.
We'll probably start planning, the next events in the next couple of months, just to kind of make sure that we get the times down. Any challenges that we faced in the first go around, we make sure we fix that for the second go. So.
And my question to you, James, is kind of what Mike was asking you about hotel stays, but for the gun event out at the gun club, did you get a feel, and you said you were going to address this next month with your survey results, but just kind of jumped in the gun. Did you get any sense of who stayed here in Carson City for that event?
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's some teams that came from, there's one team from Roseville that I believe had over 100 shooters that came for that. And there was mixed results in terms of whether they were at daytime, right? This was they were coming to shoot in the morning and they were leaving afternoon. But there were several other families within that one group that stayed one night. Obviously, we're competing with some things on the survey of people that are staying in Reno because they have a free room night up there. There's people staying with family. So that kind of cuts into the, room nights in general. But there was a positive outlook when you look at the terms of participants. There's a very high percentage all coming from out of town. Very few, I want to say there are maybe 60 to 70 shooters that are considered Carson, Yerington, Dayton, Gardnerville shooters. Majority of them, Susanville, Roseville, some smaller towns that I never even heard of in California, they were here for this shoot. So, and from my understanding, talking to the Capital City Gun Club organization, this is actually one of their smaller shoots. Most people typically will start coming to the May shoot when the weather is a lot nicer.
So these are annual events that they have? Okay, thank you.
Mike, may I just add something too? Part of, and I appreciate James, the work last week, because he met with Kyle Scholes at Travel Nevada, as James mentioned, and then in terms of the conversation we had with Brian Lennon, really what we're trying to do again here is to hopefully standardize our data collection and realizing that these are intercepts by and large, right? So these people are right here in front of us. We've designed this new survey, so it's a single piece of paper. It works very well for the person that if they need to take notes, and we can kind of ad lib some things, but we do have some very specific questions that we're asking. It doesn't matter if, again, it's a shooting tournament that they're here for, or they're here to play, soccer or baseball or softball. And taking that data, again, right now we're on a paper version of this, but we'd like to also digitize this, put it into something like SurveyMonkey, so we can leverage the resources of the Parks and Recreation Department. Again, when we met with Jennifer, Deanne, and Scott, who oversee all the different tournament functions, they are open to us using their staff to help us collect this data, so we can make better informed decisions moving forward about a particular event or a particular tournament. So we have spend data. Kyle was here, did a presentation. We don't need to ask for that kind of information, right? We already know what an overnight visitor spend is. But the way that we have designed the questionnaire, you can either break things into multiple parts, or you can phrase a question a particular way that allows you to ask one question, not three. Right, so these are very quick survey questions. I think we settled on five or six questions, and we can get pretty much everything we need to get, and then allow for us to follow up with these folks. So again, they're here for an event, right? And we're trying to collect some information to help us, as we move forward in the decision-making process about supporting a particular event. We have an email address. We can follow up with them. We've got a specific opt-in language around that. But then taking that to the next step, we want to also invite those folks to become a part of our consumer database, right, for future emails, right? So to be able to remarket and retarget to these people as well. So again, a couple of purposes in mind in terms of the way that we've developed this survey. So I'm excited, again, I think just to put some standardization in place with the data that we're collecting from these folks, so.
James, I have one more question for you. On that Lay Day celebration, It's a second annual, you said?
Yes.
And is that a local event, or are they advertising outside of the area, maybe down to like the Sacramento area?
A social media page that they do some promotions on, or, an events page, but I don't know it in terms of how much they're marking outside of that. Yeah.
I can definitely follow up with Myron just to understand exactly what they might be putting behind that, get some information back to all of you.
All right, well, there's certainly 3 events that are not usually the norm that we do, which I think is positive. Sometimes you got to start small. Lots of shooters out there. We got our name out, and robotics. So I don't think it's necessarily all about room nights. Maybe the first couple times we kind of branch out of our comfort zone.
Well, and Mike, if I may, it speaks to, again, if we're trying to build this ecosystem, right, around tourism, I know we're funded by lodging tax revenue, but again, sometimes it takes getting that person here, whether it's for the morning or for the afternoon, right? We know that they're eating here, they may be buying gas, right? Maybe even play at the tables, taking a show. So I think all of this is positive and good, and directionally where we want to go with these events, as James said, is getting them in before or to stay after, right? I think is another opportunity that we have as well. So for some folks, it may be trying to get them just to stay overnight. For other people, I think it's adding that additional night where they may have only stayed Saturday night, but now incentivizing them to do something on a Friday so we can pick off, an additional room night or two. So, it's all kind of percolates into that tourism ecosystem concept, so.
Lydia?
All right. So I am just overall excited. We've done an incredible amount of legwork making all of our departments work together, and I think their last 2 presentations can attest to that. So I'm going to show you what's new on the marketing side and what's happening with our social media advertising grant and where those dollars are going. We also have our Google advertising in full swing, and those are all things that I've been doing the media buying in-house for. We're planning an influencer fam in June with another grant that we got. So we'll have some travel writers and influencers all coming in the 3rd week in June. We just had some new press come out today, actually, and I forwarded the article to anyone who was mentioned, but it was all family-friendly activities that are happening in Carson, and that went into the San Jose Mercury and the East Bay Times. So we did get some exposure on the California side. We also had yes.
When you do that, can you send it to the board?
For sure.
Or maybe you did and I just didn't see it, but I did.
No, they just published today, so.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, for the, Dave, for the record, would you prefer that we send those as they come in rather than reporting on them at the board meeting?
Well, yeah, you could certainly report on them. I'm not trying to diminish what you would do here, but
Yeah,
I think.
just so you
when it
are aware,
happens,
absolutely.
I think it's good because, we all are influencers in one way or another. We can forward that information to people we know, and so, it would just be great.
Sure, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And it's exciting because all these were actually relatively new within the last couple weeks. So the other one was The Telegraph, which is a UK publication about 10 forgotten American state capitals that deserve more visitors, and we couldn't agree more. And the other one was in Nevada Magazine, had their spread on capital improvements and what's happening in Carson City. Another point that we're working on is we are finishing up our art walk guide and our dining guide. And I obviously talked about the conferences and just also wanted to note that I don't ever take any kind of learning opportunity lightly. And so I have pages of notes from all of these conferences, and I would love to even run any kind of workshops or talk with anyone one-on-one about what I've learned and bring that into the community as well.
Lydia, can I just
Pictures
add-
of Mickey? You must have a picture of Mickey.
I do.
One thing that I would like to do, and I talked to Lydia about this, is when Lydia goes, or if I go to a conference or any of the staff go to a conference, to be able to provide a summary of sorts, because we were at the GWTTRA conference, and you're not going to probably want the 9 pages of typed, as I'm going along with the different sessions, but to sort of summarize that information, and provide all of you with some sort of a summary that I think makes sense. So we're going to work on something as we move forward, just so, again, you all are aware of, there's a reason right? Why one of us is going to a particular conference and why this benefits not only the CTA, but also Carson City, right? So we're going to come up with sort of a design around that to share those notes with all of you.
No, I think it's great. I think it's important to, the industry is changing so rapidly that if you don't, you're behind. So
I agree.
it's great stuff.
You know, and the other aspect of that, Lydia, that you kind of touched on was the networking that you do with everybody. I know in the business I was in, when I went to conferences, the networking, I got so much information from that. And a lot of it, some of it I couldn't bring back here, but most of it I could. And so that to me is real important when you go to these conferences.
It was such a great experience all around. And a lot of you don't know my background, but I didn't come from tourism. So to be able to attend those conferences and immerse myself in the tourism industry, all in kind of a one time period was really, really helpful. And I did get some great contacts from tons of DMOs all across the country and all over the West. So we've been collaborating already and even made better partnerships with the people from South Lake Tahoe and North Lake Tahoe. And even just in our region, I really got to create some relationships with those people, which is helping us bring those synergies together to hopefully partner in the future. So I have a ton of stats here. So if you find anything that you'd like me to dive deeper in, I'll just give you a highlighted view of all of these. But for Facebook to start, we are up 174 followers since our last meeting. So about a 4 to 5 week time frame. And like I said, we're using those social media advertising dollars and the results have been pretty incredible. One of the things I heard the most over and over again at those conferences is that organic is dead and you have to pay to play. So if we don't have an advertising budget for social media, our presence is going to be non-existent because it only serves to less than 5% of your followers, and we only have 5,200. So you can imagine only, a few hundred people are really seeing our ads if we don't pay to boost them or run an ad. So you can see that our likes are definitely gaining as we continue to pay for this, and we started paying for ads and boosting posts in about mid-February, so this graph is pretty accurate. And here's where you're going to see the impressions astronomically grow with those media dollars. So our impressions for the last month were 327,000. We had 2,600, almost 2,700 engagements, which means someone liked, shared, so clicked on our post. And the clicks, which is either going to our website or going to an article for anything on our page, was almost 3,000, around 2,800. So you can see that people are interested in Carson City. Those were anything from pictures to articles to videos that we ran as advertisements. That winter video that I showed a couple of, I think at the January meeting, we got a lot of impressions from that. And I'm going to show you the differences between the two that we ran and the different kinds of
What
opportunities.
pushed it up at the end of March? What's that spike
That,
about?
I need to look into that, but we had just had some posts that really were successful in the videos as well. And so sometimes it takes a little bit to gain traction. And I think that's really when we started to see that hit. But I will dive deeper into that for you. So these are our video metrics in general, and it's really interesting because the back end of Facebook will actually show you who's more likely to engage from a demographic standpoint and who is the leading force in our fans, which actually were very different. So social media in general and a lot of outlets, women kind of lead the way just because they're more interactive and engaged on Facebook and on social media in general. But for us, women between the ages of 55 to 64 are the most likely to engage with our content, but the women between the ages of 35 and 44 are the majority of our fans, which is interesting. So even though more people on a younger demographic are the ones who are following us, the people who are actually engaging with the content are actually skewing older. So you can see we had a total of 46,000 views on our videos in this last month. And you can see on the bottom there, you can see how many people played it, how many were organic views, and then on that top one, you can see that 98% of those were paid views. Yep, so we had almost 7,000 impressions per post that we did. And you can see the engagements and the link clicks down there as well. And these were our different types of videos. We had a general 30-second winter, the wonder of winter in Carson City, your adventure continues year round. Our 30-second did not perform as well as our 15-second video, and you'll see that kind of skew normal across all platforms for almost all people. The shorter, the better. So we're looking at really honing down a lot of our videos and not spending as much on there. So this is the 15-second one, and this was about cultural experiences and riding the train in our museums. And we got 21,000 people reached for that, and 41,000 people at least viewed and engaged in that. This was another 15-second, and you can see the minutes that viewed, so almost 88,700 minutes were viewed on that video alone. And our average watch time was 12 seconds, so we almost had a complete video view for almost all of our watches, which is hard to do when you have a lot of attentions elsewhere. And this was the 30-second, and I wanted to just show in the different areas and states that we are posting that in and the engagement that we've got. So I know it's hard to read, but of this 30-second video, Oregon was our top watch, then California, then Washington, Nevada, Idaho, Utah, Texas, Arizona. We had a little bit in Louisiana, which we didn't even pay to promote to. So, so that was interesting. So this is a breakdown of the DMA regions that our Facebook ads are delivering to and where we're getting the most impressions. So it varies a little bit different here for the delivered Facebook ads. So LA is our top demo, and then it goes into Phoenix and then Reno. And these are all for people who clicked. Is that what it's sorted by? So you can see we're really getting a lot of exposure pretty far well in the Northwest and the Southwest. And I wanted to compare that to our Google ads. So this was our Facebook ads breakdown, and then our Google ads. So we're paying on Google to advertise now. We are skewing still very much in our local areas, which we are doing our best to break out of. So Carson City is still number one, then Reno, Dayton, Southlake, Gardnerville, Sparks, but then we go into Sacramento, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Long Beach, Incline Village, Virginia City. So we're really trying to break out of Nevada for people trying to find us, but it's proven difficult. So moving on to Twitter, we found some really interesting information, and Twitter has some actual just really cool breakdowns. They'll tell you what the top interests of your followers are, and that's dogs. So they can actually tell us what content that our followers are looking for. It also says music festivals and conferences and concerts, and Trish, the number 3 was comedy, which is great for the nugget. So the breakdown of this is just super interesting. It'll tell you what the household income categories are and the type of buying style that they are, which is quick and easy, what their top wireless carrier is. The information that you can get for free just from Twitter is really driving us to provide the right content to the right people. And Instagram, we had a really great increase since November. Just, I think, being more engaged and using our beautiful photos that we've stocked up over the last few years. And we have people engaging with our stories every day. So we're at about 3,471 followers, which is a 28% increase since November. And for the digital part of this, which is our Google advertising and remarketing that we're doing, and we're partnering with Avante Interactive, which is a digital company, but it is a very small team, and they're actually training me to do what they do, which I think is an incredible opportunity and a very rare opportunity. So it's been really fun to be able to learn so much from them. And so we're targeting some areas specifically for the search and the remarketing in California, Southern Nevada, Washington, Utah, and Texas. Those are our top clicks that we're getting from the Google side. And you can see this geo map of where the people are clicking to actually find out more about Carson City. So we still are skewing pretty high in California and above the LA and Sacramento area. So our YouTube has been pretty incredible as well. So this has been really fun to see the interest. So we've done the winter videos that we had on a 15 and a 30, but we're also promoting our trains from a video that we did last year. And we are actively targeting people who are in market, meaning that they are in market to travel. So they are taking actions on relative travel websites or searching travel terms. So we're making sure we're getting those in front of the right people. So we targeted people traveling to Reno, family vacationers, ski enthusiasts, travel buffs, snowbound travelers. And our video ads showed up on sites in our target markets, which are Arizona, California, Colorado, Idaho, Nevada, Oregon, Texas, Utah, and Washington. And you can see the sample sites of the videos on YouTube that we showed up on. So A&E, Lifetime, ESPN, History Channel, CNN, Late Night with Stephen Colbert, The Ellen Show, and Tasty. So our videos are getting on some really relative and prominent sites on YouTube. So our search terms, I wish I had pretty pictures for you guys because I know this gets long, but our top search terms are relative that people were searching for were things to do in Carson, museums, events, and hotels. Unfortunately, the majority of our traffic is actually still coming from Carson City. So that's something that we're refocusing on to make sure that we're almost excluding that. So we're not paying for people in Carson to search for Carson. And so you can see these are just some of the top ads by clicks of things to do. Carson City events calendar, hotels in Carson City, our lodging is our top searched category. So we're definitely seeing people who are looking for lodging, which was definitely promising. And then also just our museums. And the bottom graph, which is what I wanted you to see, was the website impact. So the blue line is March 19th through April 7th of this year, and the orange line is the same time frame from 2018. So you can see we have almost a 52% increase in traffic over the same time frame by having these ads running and driving people to our site. So imagine when we have beautiful, really functional site that people want to be on and spend time on. I think these numbers are really going to increase. And that's all I got for you guys. Can I answer any questions?
Questions?
No, I'm not. So when you keep saying that we're getting a lot of Carson City hitting your site. And the thought that comes to my mind is maybe that's where the Downtown Business Association isn't doing that good of a job with our site, because people are actually looking for what's happening here. And so I'm gonna get together with you, with our web person, social media, and see how we can maybe, skew that going in our way.
I 100% agree. I think that we definitely need to define what like a local event is, like you talked about with Lay Day, what a tourist is really looking for, and find a way to have two different places for those people to go, because right now everything is on our site. And some things just aren't relative to what a visitor wants to see. They don't want to sort through like a local library read or something like that. It's just not what they're looking for. They're looking for, concerts and things like that. So I think that's something we definitely have to have a conversation about and figure out what the best way to approach that would be.
Okay, thank you.
I think in accordance with that too, you need to work with the chamber, because as the DBA, obviously we've dropped the ball somewhere on our site, not intentionally, but as we're the downtown business, as you look at the outside, you need Ronnie from the chamber also.
Oh, for sure.
Working with you for the events.
Yeah, and their newsletter is such a great resource too. And just getting more familiar with that, they really have an incredible list of events for them too. So I think we have some collaboration to do, just like we've done with the V&T of getting everyone together. I think we just need to start having those conversations and build those bridges.
If I can just jump in, the chamber piece, Trish, Ronnie and I have talked about that kind of, this stay in our lane, right? So Ronnie works with the businesses and then obviously from the marketing perspective, but yes, collaborating together. So we know what's happening with the businesses. Let her kind of be that mouthpiece, so to speak, as the chamber and working with them, dealing with them. And we're going to need her moving forward in the chamber, right, with our .biz version of the website for us to make this work, as well. So yeah, I've been talking a little bit with Ronnie about where we're moving forward and how we can, again, work together, but not keep stepping over one another as well, right? Because I think a little bit of that is definitely going on. We're sort of, I think, trying to be all things to all people in certain aspects, and we need to, a couple of us just step back, let that entity handle their own particular constituency. So, yeah.
If I may as well. And I want to say that, when I do my own things at home and I'm searching YouTube videos or I'm on Yahoo or MSN and just reading through news, I do see our Visit Carson City ads populating on there. And so those are things that I've never really seen before. So it's a testament that the ads are getting out there, people are seeing them, and the numbers that she shows prove that. And I've been tempted to push that button, but I know where it goes, right? So I'm not trying to skew numbers in any way.
We appreciate that. Thanks, James. It's all been Stacy the whole time.
Never done that for the
Actually, I think
record.
I've solved Louisiana. He was in Louisiana.
You should see the requests that we're also getting for visitor guides to be sent to people. It's been from all over the country, even on the East Coast, of people I think who are also moving out here and just interested in the areas. And you'll see the comments, and I can send those results over to you too. But it's been really fun to see the exposure go across the country.
Well, I think that .biz website will really help a lot with stuff
I
like that,
agree.
because that's a perfect opportunity to direct them to that and to be able to put that, pull that statistics and data down.
I would think too that part of it is just our share of the Tesla effect in Reno that's moving its way through the market, which is a great thing for Carson and the surrounding cities to kind of jump on that bandwagon with it. So it's
I agree.
great to keep moving in that direction.
I agree. So once we get 3 full months of this going, I'm really intrigued to see where we are even at the end of June when we use the entirety of the grant money. I'm excited.
No, great, it's great stuff. It's fun stuff.
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions for Lydia? All right. Any future agenda items that you'd like to request the board for David for next meeting?
Yeah, I'll just remind everybody, so we will have the contract for KPS3. We've got some things now, thank you for the approval, to work through as far as their proposal and the amounts, and I will be working on that with Lydia over the next week or so. And then just a reminder, Mark Salinas will be doing his presentation as well at that May meeting. And then I just wanted to add one thing. So the team and I, we are going to Rural Roundup this week. So that's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Not everybody's there for the whole duration, but that's the rural tourism conference that Travel Nevada puts on out in Fallon. So excited to be out there with our peers, and they actually have some great presentations. I'm looking forward to the gentleman who's coming from Travel Oregon doing a keynote on Friday morning. He's actually talking about rural destination management. So DMO, destination marketing, versus DMO, destination management organization. So excited to hear about that, because they do an incredible job as the state tourism organization up in Oregon in working with all of their rural DMOs. So.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to that, and that will be at the May 13th. I'm sorry.
I don't know if the 2% issue, we talked a little bit about that. I don't know if we're going to be ready, Ben. I don't know if you're by that meeting, or if you need a little more time, or really, I just want to see if you're still alive. Sitting at the end of the,
I think that we could have it ready for the May meeting.
great, thank you. It's good to hear your voice, Ben.
Yeah. Well, I come forward, usually if I hear Ben's voice, it's because I've done something wrong. So that's right. So it's for me, it's kind of nice not to hear. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that discussion too. As I said, our next meeting's May 13th. Same place, same time, 4:00 right here. Any board comments or?
Yeah, I have a question about future meetings. The November meeting, I know it's a little bit in the future, but it's just how life is for me now. I have to plan things. It's on November 11th, which is a holiday. So I don't know what the plan is. It's Veterans Day. Yeah, November 11th. So is it the week before? Is it the week after? Is it, you don't know? Okay.
We'll get back
I
to you
probably
on
will be
that.
gone that week, so.
Okay.
Whatever week it is in November, you're gone?
No. The week of November, I'm always here on a board meeting week, so the week that contains the first Thursday And the week that contains a third Thursday, I'm always here. But that particular week, I'm gone. Not that you need to plan it around me, I'm just making that comment.
If it's a holiday, maybe let's look and to see if there's any options.
I will check on that. And we're also going to try to combine the 2 June meetings, the budget meeting and the regular June meeting. So it would be in this last half of June because the state requires the budget meetings to be at the end of June.
Well, that works really
That
well
late?
for me.
Really, that late?
Well, there's one, we'll have one in June, one in May, and then the augmentation of this year's budget will be in June.
Okay.
We want to combine those, right? And
Yeah, I'm going to try. Sometimes it's tough, but I'll
Okay.
try.
Thanks. And then in terms of comments, since my mic is on, if that's okay. A week or so ago, I have a relative who recently purchased a house in Santa Fe. And so I spent a little bit of time there, and they, in their downtown area, do they have sort of an open air bus. It's like a 13 or 15 passenger bus. And they do an hour and a half narrated tour. It's done by a private company. It's $20. And I thought, gosh, why aren't we doing something like that? It's very informative. They don't cover more than 5 or 6 miles. But they talk about all the historic stuff in downtown Santa Fe. They drive you out to where museums are. They tell you about their museums. And as I'm riding around thinking, gosh, this would be, I don't know if it would go here, but anyway, if anyone goes to Santa Fe, you should do that. I don't know if anyone's done that, but it's a pretty cool, and I know they used to do the horse carriage rides downtown. I'm sorry to say that I never did that when I was here, but gosh, I just think about all the history downtown and the State Museum and the train museum and the prison and the potential there, and it just, it seems like a natural fit. Anyway, might be something to think about in the future, and maybe a grant opportunity if there's a way to explore sort of that. It just might be something worth looking at.
I think David will have a comment. We've talked about the shuttle, right? And maybe it's an open air bus, but there's not one in town for where we can do things like that. So I think it's a great idea. Go ahead, David.
Well, and Santa Fe it's not warm all the time. It's very much the climate. The town is 7,800 feet. So climate-wise, it's very similar in terms of it being cold, and they do this every day. Now, I don't know if there'd be a market to do it every day, but gosh, I could certainly see it running, through the weekends or something. And they run it basically 4 times a day they run it. So pick up at a local hotel in the downtown and just go from there.
No, I love where you're going with that. I posed that question to Travel Nevada last week about transportation and/or a shuttle opportunity for either the marketing grant program or the PRT, the projects relating to tourism grant program, as to whether or not something like that is actually grant eligible. So Rural Roundup is this week, so Sherry said, well, could you give me until after Rural Roundup to look into that? Being at Travel Nevada, that question has never come up from a particular requester for grant money, so I don't know what the answer is, but doesn't mean that if that door is closed, we couldn't look at maybe some sort of a TAP grant or something along those lines as well. But I love the idea. I think that's a wonderful way to move people about, and
I just bring it up because I don't know that, like I said, if it's a private business that does it. I just don't know that there's enough money in it to invest in getting an open air bus and having someone make money to do that where they would do it. So it seems like a natural for us. And the people that drive the bus are basically paid in tips. They're volunteers. But I was talking to the guy that does it, and he's a retiree, which we have plenty of here. And someone developed the content, and I specifically asked them, they developed the historical content of each of the stops that they make. And so they have a script, and the volunteers learn it. And like I said, he makes a little money, but he doesn't really care about that. He just enjoys talking to people about his town. So anyway, sorry not to belabor it.
Like the
but it was
V&T
really
trade
cool.
ride, right? Where you have
Yes.
the person,
Yeah.
I find those, I think most people find those interesting.
But the good thing about it is that it was a great opportunity for me to see what I wanted to go see after that. So it was an opportunity to plan my trip there without having to click on anything ahead of time or whatever. And so it might trigger something for someone where they'll say, gosh, I'm going to come back here and stay a couple of days because I want to do A, B, C, and D,
Anyone else? And we'll move on to 14, public comment. If there's any, seeing no public comment, we'll move on to 15, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I tried, Mike. I know.